This may be a weird place to film, but I figured I might as well make a video. At least one. To highlight what I'm gonna do. Now, as one might be able to tell, I'm in an airport. Furthermore, yes, I am going to a specific location. You might be able to guess, given the topic of today's episode. Yes, I'm going to the District of Columbia well, technically it's just the District of Columbia. It's not in a state, which we will get to. But it is one of the most influential parts of the United States, as one might expect from a center of government. So let's start off with the obvious. The center of the federal bureaucracy is the District of Columbia. It houses both the Supreme Court building, the White House, and Capitol Hill. Naturally speaking, that makes it very important, especially compared to other places like, for example, Albany. Sure, Albany contains state capitals, specifically New York State buildings, but it is not the capital of all 50 states. That honor goes to Washington D.C. Now, it also houses a lot of the federal bureaucracy as well. For example, the IRS building is there, a number of the executive departments, and many more. As a result, there are a number of federal employees which work in the area. Indeed, there are so many that areas around it are heavily settled by said employees. And because, of course, certain politicians tend to prefer to have more bureaucracy, the left mainly, federal employees tend to be very left-wing. Because it's just in their interests. I mean, let's face it, who are the guys advocating for gunning jobs? Oh, right, it ain't the left. And of course, with that comes natural incentives to vote for the left. And so this plays a major role in influencing elections, both federal and state. It's why, for example, Virginia can go either way. Because while it is generally very conservative, if you take that area around D.C. and factor it in, and all the suburbs built around D.C. due to all the people going there, you get a massive left-wing presence in the area. It's why Democrats even have a chance of getting any wins in there, outside of maybe Richmond. Generally speaking, most of the Democratic influence in Virginia comes from, well, D.C. Similarly, although to a lesser extent, Maryland has a massive left-wing influence. Indeed, that is one of the big things with it. It just is kind of more left-wing anyways due to its proximity to Philadelphia and New Jersey. But to say D.C. hasn't played a major role in Maryland elections would be an understatement. It has played a massive role. And of course, adding on to that, the location of D.C. is rather temperate, and it's close to important cities like Richmond and Philly. This acts as a sort of linchpin between the major cities, especially in the past. Because think about it, what were the major cities when the United States first got its independence? There's Philadelphia, Richmond, New York, Savannah maybe, blanking unfortunately, Boston, and a few others. But generally speaking, the biggest and most important cities were around what is now D.C. In fact, if you know, the reason it is where it is as a compromise to move the capital southward so it was in the center of the new United States. Because previously it was in New York, briefly, but mainly Philadelphia. And so a lot of Southerners worried that northern influence would carry over the capital since the North would essentially oversee the city. In fact, that's one of the big reasons why it's specifically a federal district and a territory rather than a state. Because the idea is, if you made it a state or put it in a state, the capital, then that state government would basically have control over what the federal government does. Think of it like the idea of, let's say you have the government of Florence, right? Okay? And inside Florence is the government for Italy. Well, then this government of Florence could effectively dictate how the Italian government is supposed to operate because they're the guys working around it. They quite literally control the territories directly surrounding it. This is especially important back in a day with a small standing army and a reliance on militias, because a state militia could literally just be used to basically overthrow the government if they wanted to. Indeed, it's why D.C. still generally is argued to stay a territory and not a state. It is because, fundamentally, if you basically give any state authority over D.C., anyways, back to what I was saying, apologies on that, But the reason a lot of people argue it should still be a territory is because of that very idea. There's a reason it's separate from the states. It's because it's Congress's territory. This is where Congress rules and the federal government as a whole. No state, a lower branch, based on federalism, should have control over it. But also because it is a very old capital relative to the country, being founded only after the Constitution was actually made. A lot of U.S. history is stored and collected in the District of Columbia. Sure, it's dispersed across other major cities like, for example, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Los Angeles, and etc. Sure, there's some spaced out information, but a lot of our information regarding our history is collected there. You have a lot of natural history and sciences collected there as well. Many of our prototypes and first innovations are collected there, and you have things like Jefferson's Library, etc. A lot of the big historical things for the United States are collected in that district. It's a very important area, and truthfully, it's quite fascinating. It's also worth noting that technically a bit of Virginia used to be owned by Washington D.C., but it was returned, and that Arlington side of the river, that's not technically in D.C., that used to be owned by D.C. Just a neat little fact. Anyways, this is a short video because, well, I'm waiting on a plane, so I can't do much more than that. But thank you for watching, and goodbye.